Already day 3 of the conference. I'm sad to see this come to an end. It's been a great experience so far. As mentioned, I'm the campus director at New England Tractor Trailer Training School. I've been with the school for 14 years now, and our school has 4 different locations. We're in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and 2 schools in Connecticut. And for the past 56 years, we've been training professional drivers for both Class A and B licenses. Today, I'm going to discuss a very serious challenge we're facing in our country, and that is the shortage of commercial drivers in the industry. And there will be 3 parts to this conversation. 1, I want to highlight how serious of an issue this is. 2, discuss the effects and threats of the shortage on our everyday way of living. And 3, I want to give some ideas for how we can fix the problem. Let me see if this is working here. Nope. Okay, so don't worry about the slideshow. All right. So this past year, the American Transportation Research Institute, which is known as ATRI, conducted its annual survey, which quantifies the trucking industry's most critical issues. The survey respondents were asked to select their top 3 choices from a list of 29 critical issues. Those respondents were made up of 3 different categories. 43.9% of them were motor carrier personnel, 32.2% were commercial drivers, and 23.9% were other industry stakeholders. And for the 4th year in a row, driver shortage is the trucking industry's top concern. Oh. Thanks. Okay. Okay, as you can see, oh, all right, we're having some technical problems here. There we go. As you can see, there's a study right there on the screen. This issue isn't new, but it's becoming very serious, very fast. The American Trucking Institute Association statistics show that in 2019, over 60,000 driving jobs were unfilled in the industry. Does anyone in this room know the average age of a professional truck driver? Anybody take a guess? Close. 55. 55 years old. So we're certainly in an aging workforce, all right? 27.4% of our drivers are 55 years or older, all right? Projections are showing that companies will need to hire 1.1 million new drivers over the next decade. That is not an easy task. So, why is the driver shortage such a threat to our country? Well, number 1, without proper amount of professional drivers, there's an increasing cost on consumer goods that will hurt the economy. And because of the lack of drivers, shipping is often delayed, and there is a strain on the current drivers, which is moving them towards retirement. 2, the shortage of drivers is also forcing trucking companies to increase the pay, and that is in turn getting passed along to the consumers. The third aspect of this, sorry, I'm caught in the light a little bit, is we just went through over a year's worth of the pandemic, all right? And during that time frame, there was no better example of how important the truck drivers are to the country. Critical supplies were being transported to hospitals, our food and household supplies to grocery stores and fulfillment centers, sanitizers, cleaning chemicals, and now vaccines are all hauled by the country's professional drivers. In fact, drivers are so critical that during the pandemic, the federal government made regulatory exemptions and changes to the rules, such as hours of service. We currently have 3 million truck drivers in the United States. However, the last 2 decades, the amount of tonnage shipped across the country has steadily risen. So we now have a decreasing amount of drivers and an increasing amount of goods to be moved. With a need for more than 10 billion tons of freight every year, we cannot afford to lose our professional drivers, and the economy would grind to a halt without them. The country's drivers move more than 70% of domestic freight. If you could keep the light for me there, appreciate it. So, we've now established, all right, how serious the driver shortage is in our country, and I've given examples to the threats. The question is, how can we fix the problem? I have a few strategies I think need to be implemented. All right, the first one is we need to train and retain 18 to 20-year-olds to the industry. I realize that this is scary for some, but it shouldn't be. The driver workforce is aging, and we're going to fix the problem by recruiting youth. Right now, 49 states and the District of Columbia allow 18 to 20-year-olds to obtain a commercial license and drive within state lines, but they are not permitted to cross state lines. This makes no sense. Let's think about it. If you were to drive from the top of California to the bottom of the state, it would take 12 to 14 hours and would be over 1,000 miles. The state of Texas, 10 to 13 hours, 870 miles. And Florida, about 500 miles. But in a worst case scenario, if you were going from farthest distance, Connecticut to New York, it's less than 2 hours. It's about 99 miles. But we can't do that. Connecticut to Massachusetts, worst case, a little bit over 2 hours, 124 miles. Can't cross state lines. All right, Connecticut to Rhode Island, just under 2 hours, worst case. Can't do that because of the rules. So why do we create that problem for our industry, which is hurting already? It doesn't really accomplish anything. Don't get me wrong, I want this all to be done with safety, and we can accomplish that. In fact, when I talk to a lot of recruiters on a regular basis around our school, right now they tend to tell me they're having more issues with some of their veteran drivers than the individuals who are just out of school. So I think it was best said by the president, Chris Spear, of the American Trucking Association, when he pointed out that we can train 18 to 20-year-olds to protect our freedom. We're pretty sure that we can train them to cross state lines in a truck. Additionally, this would be mutually beneficial. The trades are important to this country. Research shows that on average, the food service distribution delivery, all right, which is $67,000 a year for pay, is far higher than the average salary of $38,000 a year for a high school graduate, and higher than the average salary for a college grad of $51,000 a year. And on top of that, that comes without $33,000 in college loan debt, which is the average. So it's something to think about. There is currently a bipartisan piece of legislation that is introduced to bring younger drivers into the industry called the Drive Safe Act. This act provides a framework for an apprenticeship program, including hours of training, technology use, and performance benchmarks. It was created this way to ensure that these individuals are safe and prepared. Under the legislation, when driver qualifies for a commercial license, they begin this two-step additional training process with rigorous performance benchmarks. Drivers must complete 400 hours of on-duty time and 240 hours of driving time. And that's done with an experienced driver. Every driver will train on trucks equipped with new safety technology, including active braking collision mitigation systems, video event capture, and a speed governor of 65 miles an hour. So safety is a major part of the legislation. We need to improve, secondarily, besides recruiting younger drivers, we need to improve each state's processes with the Department of Motor Vehicles. The impact of credentialing for both commercial permits and CDL testing has been affected, and the industry has been slowed in new drivers entering the field. Many DMVs shut down completely during the pandemic, and even though that has now changed and they are operating at reduced capacity. And also, depending on the individual states and their financial picture, many are understaffed with professionals to administer CDL testing, therefore impacting the new entrants to the field. Lastly, the industry could go a long way to filling more driving positions by recruiting more women and military veterans to the profession. To speak directly to the recruitment of women drivers, in January of 2020, women held over 50% of American jobs. However, they only made up 6.7% of the trucking population. In addition to addressing the shortage, recruiting women to the industry will have a positive effect on safety. ATRI did another survey, or study I should say, back in 2018, a crash predictor analysis, and that found that female truck drivers outperformed the male counterparts in every statistical significant driving behavior experienced. And the male drivers were involved in 20% more crashes than female drivers. So that sounds like a win-win for the industry if we can bring more women to trucking. I've also worked with some very good organizations, one in particular called the Women in Trucking Organization, who is striving to make this a reality. They are a nonprofit whose mission is to encourage the employment of women in the trucking industry, promote their accomplishments, and minimize obstacles faced by women working in the industry. There's a couple things that we could do, I think, that would go a long way towards bringing more women to the industry. I think we really need to look into creating safer rest area and truck stops for them. All right, both men and women, more home time. It can be a taxing job, but we have to create a way to get people home more and make it attractive to them. But there is one advantage and one plus to the trucking industry that's not happening in the everyday world, and that's equal pay for men and women to do the job. So hopefully that goes a long ways in bringing more women to the industry. As far as veterans go, many of the individuals have driven in the military, and getting into this industry is a nice transition back to the civilian world. So reaching out to the veterans, having them join this force is definitely another opportunity for us to fill those positions. So to summarize, really the three key aspects to fixing our driver shortage is 1, recruit a younger driving population. All right, 2, better our DMV processes. And 3, recruit more women and veterans to the industry. That's all I got for you today. So it's been a great experience. I want to thank ITAS, and I look forward to hearing what more people have to say at this conference the rest of the day. Thank you very much.